So just this morning, my husband called me and was like, hey, I think we should start a podcast together. Now, I have no idea what in the HE double hockey sticks he thinks that we should start a podcast about, because I can promise you, you do not want us giving you like marriage advice or really life advice. And between my Southern accent, his really thick Southern accent, I'm pretty sure wouldn't even be able to understand it. But starting a podcast, I think, is on the top of a lot of people's minds. Like, all the people want to start a podcast, and for good reason. I have hosted a podcast for years now. Now, I just closed the doors on mine, but I have hosted a podcast since 2015 in some capacity, and it is a freaking magical thing. And if you're wanting to know how to start a podcast in 2023 and beyond, this is the video for you. Hi, welcome back to the Hey Jessica channel. I am so excited to introduce you to today's contributor, because it is a rare thing that I get to introduce you to people that I have known since like first grade. And this is one of those times. I graduated high school with both Stephanie and her husband, and Stephanie was one of my very first virtual assistants. Now she's this amazing podcast manager, editor, organizer, all the things, and she is here today to teach you everything you need to know to start a podcast in 2023 and beyond. And let me tell you, you're gonna wanna listen if a podcast is on your list of to-dos. So Stephanie, take it away.
You have this great idea and you are finally ready to start a podcast. But where do you begin? Starting a podcast can be really intimidating. Trust me, I get it. But today we're going to talk about everything you need to know to finally start your podcast. So today we're going to start with your podcast idea. What is your podcast about? What is the purpose of your podcast? And who is your podcast for? Once you really nail down these things, it'll help you have some direction about what you want to talk about in your episodes. You will also want to consider what type of format you want for your podcast. This may mean that you are a host by yourself. It could be a storytelling style. Maybe you want to have a co-host, or maybe you would like to bring guests on to do interview style episodes. You'll also want to consider how frequently you would like to release your episodes. You may prefer to do weekly episodes every other week, or maybe your podcast style is to release multiple episodes in a week. Whatever you decide is right for you, just make sure that you have the capacity to keep up with a production schedule like that. Okay, now that you've figured out all the fine details for your podcast, we're going to give our podcast a title. Choose a podcast title that is short yet catchy, and that it's something that's really memorable and easy to share. Avoid using the and podcast at the end, because those are really just unnecessary filler words. Now that you have a title, you've got your idea all mapped out, and you know what you want to do with your podcast, let's write a short description for it. You're going to use this to showcase what your show is going to be about. That way, when a potential listener clicks on your show, they can read through to know exactly what to expect from your show, and they can go, this is exactly what I was looking for. I can't wait to listen. Okay, now let's dive into our tech and equipment. One of the biggest questions people have when they start a podcast is, what kind of mic should I use? And there are so many microphones out there. I totally get it. You can find a microphone to fit any budget. And even if you have no budget and you don't want to get a microphone, you can use your phone for now until you're ready to upgrade that equipment. Two great microphones that I would recommend would be a Samson Q2U or a Shure MV7. Those are two great microphones, and they have on different ends of the budget spectrum, so you can choose what works best for you. So next up, you've got your microphone, but where do you record? There are plenty of different places that you can record. You can start with Audacity, you can record in GarageBand, and if you're going to bring on guests for your show, you might want to consider something like Zencaster or Riverside, so that you can have that interview together, but you still remain remote. And next up, let's talk about editing your podcast. Editing can sound a little scary, but it doesn't have to be. Let's start with Audacity. It's a totally free software that works on any operating system, and you can import your theme music for your podcast and your audio file and put them together pretty easily. And later on down the road, you can learn some more advanced editing techniques. All right, now let's talk about hosting. This is where your podcast lives. My favorite hosting is always Buzzsprout. It's so easy to use, it's beginner friendly, and they have great customer support in place for you. Okay, so now let's move into recording. So when you are getting ready to start recording, you'll want to choose maybe a smaller room that's going to create less echo. This would include things like carpet or furniture, some bedding or curtains, maybe some things on the wall. Those are going to help make your sound a little more polished. The first thing you'll probably want to record is your show trailer. A trailer is usually only a couple minutes long, so it's really easy to start with. You'll want to introduce your audience to you and kind of explain a little bit about what your show is about and what to expect for upcoming episodes. Think of it as a movie trailer to really build up that excitement. And it's also really great for building up your excitement and your confidence. And it builds great momentum for you to really get started on your first episode. So once you have your trailer, you're gonna want to start recording your episode. And this may sound scary, but it doesn't have to be. Take your time and do what feels comfortable for you. When you are first launching your podcast, you'll want to have maybe 3 or 4 episodes ready to go so that your new listeners can really dive right in and get hooked on your podcast. So you've gotten this far and you are finally ready to launch. Yay! So now you need to promote it. I know you're so excited anyway. So tell everyone everywhere that you are launching a podcast. Reach out to your network and your community and really build that excitement and share information about your podcast. Share your graphics for it, share a little information, make some videos, and just really share your excitement for your podcast because excitement is contagious. And don't be afraid to ask for those ratings and reviews because they really help you grow. So I can't wait to see how you use these tips that you learned today to officially launch your podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the Hey Jessica channel so you don't miss any videos on growing your online business.